All right, so I sent the kids back to school this week. Made me realize we got about 2 weeks before the college football season starts. And beginning of the season is usually packed full of non-conference games. And I want to make sure you don't miss the big ones in the Big 12 this season. You might be asking yourself why even non-conference games even matter. Well, if you win the right one, it helps you and the conference look better. You lose the wrong one, and it could cost more than just a game.
As you know, today we made the decision to part ways with Coach Gundy.
All right, welcome to Targeting with Joe. I'm going to go over the Big 12 non-conference, the top 5 I have for the 2026 season. I'm going to start off with the biggest non-conference game in the Big 12 schedule, BYU versus Notre Dame, which won't happen during the opening weekend. It won't even happen in September at all. BYU hosts Notre Dame on October 17th at LaVelle Edwards Stadium. By the middle of October, these teams won't be preseason projections anymore. We should know whether Notre Dame is a legitimate national championship contender and whether BYU is near the top of the Big 12 standings. That could turn this into a late season playoff elimination game.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
There's also some unfinished business here. Notre Dame and BYU were the first 2 teams left out of last season's college football playoff. They were also expected to meet in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but after missing the playoffs, Notre Dame decided not to participate in any bowl games. So BYU played Georgia Tech instead. Notre Dame and BYU didn't play last season, but college football has given us the matchup 1 year later, and this time Notre Dame can't opt out. Notre Dame leads the all-time series 7-2.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
But this will be its first trip to Provo since 2004. BYU won that game. The key players this time is BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier. I just like saying that name. Bachmeier. As a true freshman, Bachmeier produced 33,560 total yards, accounted for 26 touchdowns, and helped BYU win 12 games. Now he enters year 2 with considerably higher expectations. The biggest question will be how BYU's offensive line handles Notre Dame's defensive front. And can the Cougars give Bachmeier enough time to push the ball downfield and create explosive plays? In this, a BYU victory would be one of the biggest wins in program history. It would also give the Cougars a signature victory over one of college's biggest brands and give the entire Big 12 more credibility going into the playoff committee. A loss wouldn't necessarily eliminate BYU, especially against a program like Notre Dame, but it would make BYU's margin for error inside the conference much smaller. And if the Big 12's best team gets handled easily, we already know what the national conversation will sound like after that.
I had no idea you'd gotten experimental surgery to have your balls removed.
From a playoff resume game in Provo to one of the most difficult road environments to college football. On September 12th, Arizona State travels to Kyle Field to face Notre Dame. That's interesting. I could have sort of just played BYU. On September 12th, Arizona State travels to Kyle Field to face Texas A&M. The game kicks off at 11 a.m. Central Time. If the Big 12 wants to prove that as a top program can compete with the SEC, this is one of those best opportunities. But Arizona State won't be doing this at home or at a neutral site. The Sun Devils have to walk into College Station and do it in front of more than 100,000 Texas A&M fans. Arizona State, meanwhile, is replacing several players who helped establish the program under Kenny Dillingham. That includes quarterback Sam Leavitt and receiver Jordan Tyson. The new offense will be built around quarterback
Cutter Bowley
and a collection of new playmakers. Their first major test will come against an experienced Texas A&M defense in Kyle Field. Handling the crowd noise may be almost as important as handling the Aggies themselves. False starts, misassignments, and communication problems could completely derail Arizona State's offense before it even gets established. And this game is only beginning of an unusual week for the Sun Devils. After playing in College Station, Arizona Arizona State travels all the way to London to play Kansas. Most teams schedule a lighter game after facing an SEC playoff team on the road. Arizona State apparently scheduled a connecting flight. A win at Texas A&M would immediately make Arizona State a national story. It would also give the Big 12 one of the best road victories of the entire non-conference season. A competitive loss wouldn't damage the Sun Devils very much, but if Arizona State gets blown out, questions about its rebuilt roster will follow the team all the way across the Atlantic.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Number 3 on my list, Baylor gets another opportunity against Auburn. The Bears and Tigers meet September 5th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, with the game kicking off at 2:30 Central on ABC. Technically, this is a neutral site game, which is using the word neutral pretty generously. It is approximately 100 miles from Auburn and roughly 800 miles from Baylor. Last season, Auburn traveled to Waco and defeated Baylor 38-24. The Tigers controlled the game on the ground, with quarterback Jackson Arnold rushing 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. Baylor threw for more than 400 yards, but it didn't matter because the Bears couldn't stop Auburn's rushing attack. That makes Baylor's run defense the most important matchup in this rematch. The Bears cannot allow Auburn's mobile offense and running backs to control this game again. There is also a transfer portal storyline connecting these two teams. Bryson Washington played running back for Baylor last season's meeting. This year, he'll be wearing an Auburn uniform. That means Baylor may have to stop one of its own former players to avoid being swept in a 2-game series. A Baylor victory would avenge last season's loss and give the Big 12 an immediate opening week win over an SEC team. Because this game is on ABC, it would also receive plenty of national attention. A loss would give Auburn the 2-game sweep, and Baylor would begin another season trying to recover from a high-profile SEC loss. At number 4, Oklahoma State hosts Oregon on September 12th. The game kicks off at 11 a.m. Central on ESPN at Boone Pickens Stadium, and yes, we have to talk about what happened last season.
Stop! He's already dead!
It was one of the worst losses in Oklahoma State history, and helped demonstrate how far the program had fallen. But almost everything about Oklahoma State has changed since then. Eric Morris is now the head coach. Oklahoma State added 60 transfers, including 20 players who followed Morris from North Texas. That group includes quarterback Drew Mestemaker and running back Caleb Hawkins, who helped North Texas win 12 games last year. This is not the same roster Oregon faced in Eugene, but September 12th will show us how differently it really is. The key matchup is Mestemaker and Oklahoma State's rebuilt offensive line against Oregon's defensive front. Last season, Oregon created early explosive plays, forced turnovers, and essentially ended the game before Oklahoma State could settle into it. The Cowboys cannot allow that to happen again. They don't necessarily have to dominate Oregon, but they have to prove they belong on the same field. A victory would be one of the biggest regular season wins Oklahoma State has ever had. It would immediately validate the decision to hire Morris and completely change expectations for the Cowboys. Losing to Oregon by itself would not prove the rebuild has failed. Oregon is still one of the most talented programs in the country, but another non-competitive loss would show that the gap between these programs remains enormous. It is the first opportunity to show this country that last year's team is gone and we've moved forward.
Future's now, old man.
Rounding out the top 5 is TCU against North Carolina. The Horned Frogs and Tar Heels open the season August 29th at Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland for Week 0. Kickoff is scheduled for 11 a.m. Central Time. It'll be the first international football game in history for both programs, and one of the first major games of the entire college football season. That gives the Big 12 an early opportunity to shape the national conversation. These teams also know each other very well. TCU defeated North Carolina 48-14 in last season's opener, spoiling Bill Belichick's first game as a head coach in college football. The Horned Frogs scored 2 defensive touchdowns and finished the game with 41 unanswered points. North Carolina now gets an opportunity for revenge. It just has to cross an ocean to get it. TCU enters the rematch with a rebuilt offense and a new quarterback. Harvard transfer Caden Craig is projected to take over the position. His first start could come in another country against an experienced North Carolina defensive front and in one of the most heavily promoted games of Week 0. No pressure. Can the Horned Frogs keep Craig comfortable and establish their offense? Or can North Carolina pressure the new quarterback and prevent another TCU blowout? A TCU victory would give Horned Frogs another nationally visible win and allow the Big 12 to land the first punch against the ACC. A North Carolina victory would make last season's result feel much less meaningful. Those are my favorite 5 Big 12 non-conference games of 2026. But just because your team didn't make the list doesn't mean I'm ignoring them. I'm breaking down all 3 non-conference games for every Big 12 team in a series of 16 shorts. So subscribe to Targeting with Joe and watch for your team. And let me know in the comments which of these 5 games matters the most in the Big 12. And we'll see you in the next